Howdy, everybody. Chris Edwards here of the Tyler County Booster. I'm sitting here today with Caleb Fortenberry. Now, the purpose of this interview is going to to let you get to know Caleb a little better. Now, Caleb is here with us for 180 days. Is that right?
Close to it. It's about 90,
okay.
So yeah.
90. Well, we can always double that, get the Air Force to give you an extra helping, because we could sure use your talents. But anyway, Caleb is here on an internship program through the United States Air Force. And he's still active, so he's still receiving his Air Force pay as well as learning the ropes here. And he's going to be working with us and learning some new things he can put in his toolbox. And so anyway, Caleb, how are you today, man?
I'm doing good.
Good for Monday, man.
Yeah.
That's what we like to hear, man. It pumps us up for somebody to be as eager and chipper about a Monday. So, Caleb, you grew up here in Tyler County and graduated. Was it Chester?
No, actually, I was homeschooled.
Or you were homeschooled,
Yeah,
that's right. But you grew up in the Chester area, though, right?
No, I grew up in Woodville.
Oh, okay, you grew up in Woodville. Well, sorry, for some reason, maybe I mistook you for somebody
No,
else.
it's okay. It's probably, I was telling you that I played six-man football. We did play Chester. That might have been where you got that from.
Yeah, okay. So, Caleb, tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you back to Tyler County.
Well, I've been in the Air Force for a little over 5.5 years. I'm a cop by trade, and I never thought that I would go to college. The Air Force kind of allowed me to do that. And I've done a lot since I've been in, and I've been able to get a lot of different certifications. But the problem is the law enforcement was never really where I wanted to end up. But the program, it's the Career Step program, and it's DoD-wide. It allows you to go into a career field on the civilian side that you actually want to do. So it's kind of how I ended up here. I knew I wanted to do something in videography or just a creative outlet, and I thought the Booster would be a great fit in Polk County Publishing. So yeah, just worked out. Yes, sir, and we're certainly happy to have you here. So Caleb has been here for a week since, since last Monday. Mm-hmm. And how have you enjoyed your being here so far? Well, I've enjoyed it. It's been good. I'm trying to learn a little bit from everybody that I can. I started on my first project. Whether it ends up in the paper, I guess that's up to you. So still working on that. But I'm trying to, do the writing side and the video side. And Jim Powers, he's been teaching me a lot. I'm trying to learn as much from him that I can because he seems to be a very advanced photographer, and he knows exactly what he's talking about.
Oh, so. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, we all enjoy Jim's many talents to bring to the table. Like I've said before, there's a jack of all trades, that mm-hmm. phrase, but Jim is the gem of all trades, yeah. Whether it's editing, writing, photography, webmastering, IT, or even fixing random things around you. Jim is always, there for us. We are very thankful. So, anyway, you mentioned you're trying to get a good feel for a lot of the different things that we do now as a newspaper and in media generally, whether it be audio editing or, web design, photography, and things like that. But this is something you already had a little skin in the game. You have, a website, you do some film reviews and things like that. Kind of tell us a little bit about that and where you've gone with that and how long that's been a thing that you've done. Okay.
Well, in 2016 and 2017, I was deployed, and I was getting into kind of the idea of starting a YouTube channel. And a buddy of mine, his name was Mike Crocker. He really pushed me to it. He was like, man, you would do great in this. I think you would be able to sell products or do this as a job or whatever you want to do. And so I started up the YouTube channel. It was not a success, but it was the first big creative outlet that I started. And that's what got me interested in film. So, I bought a cheap camera and I just went for it and kept going. And what I would say to anybody out there that's trying to get started in anything like this is just to start, And so, yeah, it just kept going from there. After that, I heard about podcasts, and I was like, you know what? This seems like something I could do. So I started a podcast called Film Fan Podcast. It's on all major outlets for listening, and I met a lot of cool people through that. One guy in particular, he's a director, John Woodruff. I just messaged him, messaged me right back. He was like, yeah, I'd love to be on your podcast. So it was really cool, the people you get to meet and, the connections you get to make. So through doing that, I got a little bit more into film, and I started writing screenplays. I had no idea what they were or how to write them or anything. I just knew that I wanted to tell a story, So I wrote a screenplay, and I'm on my 5th pass. So it's one of those things that I'll just continue doing. Hopefully I'll be able to sell them someday. But
well, man, the revision process, I've said it once and I'll say it for the 10,765th time. The revision process is where all the magic happens in any kind of writing you're doing. So as a kind of a side note, but to remind everyone out there watching and listening to this, Caleb is going to be helping us out a lot with our endeavors in multimedia. Video, of course, obviously is a big interest of his and him, and it's also a big interest of Jim Powers as well. And so we hope to be bringing you more streaming video content on our various platforms, whether it be Facebook or our .coms, and also the podcast thing. We have several podcasts as a company. We have, of course, the East Texas News Roundup, which is company-wide. It covers news from all 5 of our counties and all of the newspapers that we have, as well as we also have the popular Crime Behind the Pine Curtain podcast and some others. And so hopefully Caleb will be helping out with those, and we'll be getting more listeners on board. So back to you, good sir. Let me go back and ask a little bit about your Air Force career. Now, I know that you're still active, and so there's probably a lot of things you can't talk about, but open up a little bit, if whatever you can say about that, about some of your experiences in the Air Force, whether it be some travels or just anything of note you might want to, get the people aware of. Or share with them.
So, a lot of people join the Air Force to travel, and it is a great way to go see the world. Sometimes you end up staying in the same place, and that's unfortunate, but it does happen. With me, I got really lucky. For my deployment, I ended up going to Jordan, and it's the country Jordan. And it was beautiful. I mean, just absolutely stunning. I got to go to the Dead Sea and go float in the Dead Sea. It was definitely an experience. It's something that I don't think a lot of people get to do. And, they also have Petra there. Unfortunately, I didn't go to that, but didn't have time. But yeah, I got to do quite a bit of training and lots of TDYs. We're going all over stateside to different schools and stuff. So I started off at Tyndall Air Force Base, which is in Florida, at Panama City, Florida. I was there for roughly 4 years. Then Hurricane Michael hit, and that pretty much destroyed everything. So we ended up leaving there, and then we went to Arkansas for a little while, and Arkansas was okay. It's a good state to go to. So is Florida. It's just the Panhandle. It wasn't all the beautiful beaches you'd think of.
And I've always said Florida is kind of like 2 separate countries almost. You've got North Florida and then you've got South Florida, 2 very different places, 2 very different mindsets.
Yep.
Spent a little time down in South Florida. So yeah. So Caleb, again, thank you for coming on board, and for, I've often said before that in this day and age, finding people who are willing to learn new things is probably the biggest part of the battle, finding people to work for you and work with you and everything. And Caleb's very eager, very ready to learn, and already has a very impressive skill set. So I'm going to wrap this up here with just a couple more questions, but to kind of let the people get to know you a little better. Since coming back to Texas, I guess, what are some things that you miss the most about Texas, that you've become reacclimated with? It can be anything from barbecue to good Texas beer to Texas football, college football teams, whatever, What are some things that you're thankful to be back around here in the Lone Star State?
Oh, man. Well, everywhere I've been, I've enjoyed the people there for the most part. Being on that law enforcement side, you do get to see the nasty side of people, but every time I come back to Texas, I always wanted to move back. Every time I was on leave,
right.
I was like, man, I miss this place so much. And I miss the fishing here a lot.
A lot of good bass fishing.
Yep.
Just everywhere you look.
Yep. And, I got to do a little bit of fishing at the other places I was at, saltwater fishing in Panama City, and that was a learning curve. And then some trout fishing in Arkansas, which was nice, but I missed the bass fishing here, so I'm ready to get back to that. I haven't gone since I've been back, but I'm ready to do it.
You'll get there, man, if we don't keep you too busy.
Yeah.
We plan on keeping you pretty busy, man.
Good.
So, but yeah, man, you can take the Texas out of the boy, but you cannot take the boy out of Texas all the way. So It's funny you said, working, law enforcement and everything, you see the worst parts of humanity and everything, and that kind of, might have kind of dampened your spirit a little bit. And you see a lot of that working in media too. But you also get to see the really good sides of humanity. Right. And, hopefully, and with what we do as a community newspaper, I hope that the bad parts of humanity don't overshadow the very good things that go on in our communities in the eyes of the public, and with you as well working with us. So I'm going to wrap this up with one last question. This is something that, in today's workplace and professional environments, it's very much a thing now that's become more accepted is tattoos in the workplace. And I thought, one of the first things about Caleb when I met him was that I'm like, oh, great, there's another tattooed freak here, because I'm heavily tattooed. I mean, most of mine aren't visible, but Caleb has some very impressive, very nice ink. And kind of tell us a little bit about how you got started and how that's helped to tell your story, or any meaningful or certain tattoo that you might want to kind of elaborate on.
Sure. So when I was in tech school was when I got my first tattoo. I always knew I wanted a tattoo, and I guess that was just kind of like the rebellious thing in me. And that's kind of what it started off as. And it was a Texas tattoo. It says Liberty or Death. It's got a star on it, Goliad flag.
Oh yeah.
And that's what it started off as. And I thought it was cool, but I was like, I was around all these people that were constantly getting tattoos, and the military is very, cultural. It's got its own distinct culture, So the guys I was with, everybody was getting tattoos at the time, and you could call it peer pressure, you can call it whatever, but I just enjoyed them. I really liked the artwork, and some of them tell stories, some of them were just because I wanted a tattoo. My favorite though is probably this sleeve, which there's a bunch on here. I got a lot of them individually. It's an Apache helicopter.
Oh, okay.
And my uncle is Chuck Fortenberry. His memorial is out at the courthouse. And I got that for him in his memory, for him sacrificing his life for a convoy of Marines that he saved. Or him and his co-pilot, Shane Colton. So yeah, that's probably my favorite, and as a memory,
Very nice. And that's one of the things about body art. I've always had an eye for art and everything, and tattoo art is one of those things to me that's the most immediate visually, that it tells a story, but also it's something that anybody can appreciate, really. And you wear it, and it's there forever.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Unless, of course, you decide to pay the ungodly sums of money to get one removed.
Right.
But who wants to do that?
No.
Anyways, so folks, thank you so much for paying attention, for listening or watching this. Again, my name is Chris Edwards with the Tyler County Booster, and this here is Caleb Fortenberry. I hope you enjoy getting to know him a bit. Caleb, thank you for your service, and thank you for coming and being a part of this, man.
Yeah, well, yeah. Thank you for allowing me to.
Man, my pleasure, my pleasure. So to everybody, again, out there, and who, regardless if you're watching this or listening to this on the podcast, we hope you have a great week, and be good to yourselves. Take care.